Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us for another episode of The Bottom Line. I'm your host, Lauren Kalil. We're jumping on pretty immediately right now as the developments within the CrossFit community when it comes to Ukraine and Russian athletes. If you look at the leaderboard, a lot of people are speaking out in protest. Just to name one YouTuber, they're saying, "Dear CrossFit, all Ukrainian CrossFit community ask you to ban Russian CrossFit athletes and affiliates as representatives of Russian aggression in Ukraine. We need you to support until they end this horrible war." I have Tommy Marquez and Brian Friend on right now. Just initial thoughts on what's going on within the CrossFit space when it comes to Ukraine and Russia. Tommy, I'll let you start.
Well, I think, it's a very rapidly developing situation. We've already seen, the IOC come out and they're basically launching, I believe, an investigation into banning both Russian and Belarusian athletes from participation. And then FIFA just recently came out
I
and
think
said that
was it FIFA or was it U.S. Soccer?
Well, FIFA got some blowback for not stepping up and saying something immediately, and they just recently, BBC Sport about 2 hours ago reported that FIFA is set to suspend Russia until further notice, as the IOC has already recommended that they ban those athletes from international competition. And so we've seen arguably two of the most, I would say, globally influential athlete organizations and competition organizers come out and place recommendations around that, because as we've seen in the past, sports can have such a huge impact on political, I would say, political strife when it comes to how certain people are being treated. And we saw that with South Africa a long time ago, and now there's obviously being some calls for CrossFit to follow suit in some sort.
Yeah, and this morning, I think it was a young Ukrainian woman had popped up at the top of the leaderboard for the CrossFit Open with a very impressive score, and then not too long after that, there were about 5 or 6 Ukrainian men all posting scores right up there at the top of the leaderboard. But the links that they were including as their video submissions were all links basically asking for support to CrossFit to follow in the lines of some of the decisions that other international sports organizations have made. And we talk about all the time how the CrossFit Open is perhaps, if not the biggest international participatory event that exists in sports. And so when you see decisions like this being made by the Olympic Committee and by FIFA, which is soccer is considered to be the most international sport in the world, the most popular sport in the world, and you have that also accolade as CrossFit, it's definitely something that they have to be thinking about.
Tommy, do you think that CrossFit will in fact ban Russian athletes from participating?
It's honestly hard to say. And I don't think the decision is as simple and clear cut as like, hey, other sports are doing it, so we have to. I think CrossFit has an opportunity to be very nuanced in this approach. I think you have to understand the impact that the IOC and FIFA have as sports from a political discourse standpoint, with their history and how they impact and sheer reach that they have for billions of people that they affect by making this decision. I think CrossFit has an opportunity to both make a statement, and obviously I would hope for them to come out and condemn the actions of Russia, because I think that's an important thing to say, to let people know where they stand and how they view this situation. But I also think there's an opportunity for them to be a little bit more, and this, pardon my language for the use of this, but I think more surgical in their approach, because CrossFit's influence doesn't necessarily carry the same weight. So I think there's an opportunity to verbally let everyone know and offer their support to Ukraine and condemnation of the actions taken by Russia, while also understanding the scope of their influence and how this influences every single party, and understand that not every, casting a broad net for all Russian athletes within the CrossFit space specifically because of CrossFit's influence isn't just as clear cut as well, because we've seen athletes like Roman come out and, stand against this act of war and basically say he wants peace and he doesn't agree with this. And so I think CrossFit can maybe, and it's possible they could ultimately put a ban on, a temporary ban, or what I would consider a symbolic ban in this regard, to basically show a movement of support. But I think there's also an opportunity for them to use their resources, which are limited in comparison to FIFA or the IOC, to say, all right, are our efforts better focused towards supporting Ukraine than it is necessarily trying to drop a symbolic hammer on Russia? Now, there's a possibility they could do both, and there's a possibility they could condemn verbally and then support physically. They could condemn Russia verbally and support Ukraine physically, and better leverage their impact there. And I'm, obviously I'm torn on the situation. This is, something that's well above my pay grade and not something that necessarily we tackle on a day-to-day basis, but it is important for us to get out and discuss and bring awareness to, because it has far-reaching impacts. And it just seems like, and there's another ham-handed analogy too, but I don't think you don't send a special forces unit in to do the same job as a Marine battalion, if that makes sense. There's the size and scope and ability to be specific in your approach to it is one that's very unique to certain organizations based on their scope and influence. And I'm not necessarily saying CrossFit is that special forces unit, but they have an opportunity here to be very and very particular in their approach, while also showcasing unwavering support for the people of Ukraine.
Sure. And again, like, this is very immediate that we're all jumping on here. We just want to get some information and get the conversation going. But right off the bat, Brian, what do you think the bottom line of this topic is?
I think Tommy's right on the money. I mean, it's a very difficult situation. It's hard. It's hard for anyone who's not, immediately involved in that to know how to react and how to support. And I am pretty confident that CrossFit is having these conversations, and that they're, I would be very surprised if there wasn't some kind of an announcement one way or the other that comes out very soon. But I think that's the bottom line, is that it's important that CrossFit has a communication relatively quickly. That is, and that's not an easy thing for them to do.
It's very outside, and CrossFit is typically taking a hands-off approach politically, because there's literally a million different political things that could go left or right on any given day. And it can be a slippery slope type situation, because CrossFit's in every country, and there are historical elements and things that are far reaching on the geopolitical spectrum that it would be very out of our, and I use the collective we as us as CrossFitters in the community, to try and insert ourselves into something we have literally no idea the history behind. But this one is a very large and very forward-facing, and a very important one, I think, for us to acknowledge, because it's happening and it's playing out in plain sight in front of us. And I think we would be remiss without saying, like, go online, go seek out Ukrainian affiliates, go seek out people in this space. I mean, Snorri Baron has had some posts that helping support others. The focus I really need to have is on helping the people in Ukraine that are suffering as a result of this, and finding ways to support CrossFit shelters. CrossFit affiliates are being used as bomb shelters. CrossFit affiliates are bringing people in to help provide them a place of safety, or whatever it may be, and go out and seek those options to be able to support. I'm going to try and repost as much as I can when stuff comes across my desk. I urge everyone to do the same, and I think it's an opportunity for us to rally behind our Ukrainian brothers and sisters to support them as best as possible.
Tommy, Marquez, and Brian Friend, thank you so much for popping on just to openly discuss this conversation. For more information, we will continue to post on all of our social medias, as well as on morningchalkup.com, and we hope to see you guys